I will still never be selling all of my ZBCN, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, let me explain why. It's because, hypothetically, if ZBCN went to the price of 10 cents during this cycle, arguably if it ever does, and let's say, of course, I'm totally aware that there's going to be a bear market afterwards, and if that does happen, let's say ZBCN goes down 90% from that. At that point, ZBCN would still be arguably at the price of 1 cent. Now, 1 cent is still roughly around a 2x from ZBCN right now. And I'm going to still be keeping 10% of my holdings because, sure, I'm totally aware that, the price is going to go down eventually. However, I just never want to be exiting completely because not only do I think Zebec, arguably for me, not in anyone's behalf, I think I like the future of it. I like the fundamentals. It really reminds me of somewhat of a miniature version of Ripple and Stellar, but with a Solana aspect. So I still want to believe in this, and I like its long-term future. So if I like its long-term future, I don't get why I wouldn't still just hold ZBCN, considering if, let's say, 1 cent is still around a 2x from right now, and let's say that's a 90% decrease from the price of 10 cents. So again, I'm not saying that, I'm never going to be exiting at all, because that would be ridiculous. That would not make sense. Of course, there's always going to be a moment where someone might want to exit, right? But then at the same time, it's just never going to be completely for me, but this is just my mindset. Also, if I take a look back in history, let's take a look at Cardano's native token called ADA. At one point, ADA was hovering around a couple cents. Then what happened? In 2021, it went to the price of around $3. And even if we take a look at ADA right now, because we all know what happened when it comes to ADA after 2021, after that cycle top, I would say. Of course, there was a big dip. The bear market happened. But is ADA ever at that price ever again? No, it's never seen that. Arguably, I don't think maybe it might ever see that again. So then, for me, I've seen time and time again these projects with a good community, with good fundamentals and good exposure, how, yeah, sure, they are gonna hypothetically experience bear markets eventually, but it seems like the ones that did pretty good, they never return back to the levels in which they once were. So when it comes to ZBCN, I just kind of have that mindset. I do not know the future. However, when I see something like Cardano's native token called ADA, for me, I just kind of view it a little bit in the same regard here, even though, of course, I'm totally aware that Cardano has way more fans and a bigger following than Zebec. Also, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin ever going to go back to the price of $1,000? You know what I mean? Is it ever going to go back to the price of $1? Just to me, ZBCN in a way smaller scale, right? Let's say maybe 10 cents and then going down to the price of 1 cent. I don't think maybe we might ever see like what we saw with ZBCN, way back then, right? So I'm just still staying patient when it comes to Zebec. And real quick, before I continue on with this video, some people like to ask me, why are you wearing a Bentley shirt if you don't have a Bentley? Look, I never owned a Bentley, but you know who did? My dad back then. But what happened, right? Eventually he had to sell it because, things happen. Business wasn't doing that good. And fun fact, by the way, the Bentley that my dad had was a Bentley Mulsanne. The outside was really cool. Like the middle was gray. Like it was like a two-tone color on the outside. So it was gray in the center. And then it was like black on the sides. But the inside was like this orangey type of color. Man, I really loved it. But you know what? Sometimes, again, life happens. This is why I'm not a fan of depreciating assets anyways. And again, life happens. What can you do about it? But you know what? I'm going to still keep this shirt as a souvenir. I just think it looks cool. But yeah, besides that point, that is a depreciating asset. So for me, that lesson taught me a lot of things. First of all, it's never to go heavily, into depreciating assets. I'm not into that. In fact, I'm not even into cars. For me, a Tesla, a Prius, I like that. I don't like anything more than that. This is just my perspective, though. However, beyond that, again, this is why I just don't think it's such a good idea to get into depreciating assets too much, which is why I don't really like doing that to begin with. However, that's just a quick story time because every time I make a video using this shirt, people are saying, why do you keep using a Bentley shirt and all this? Well, because arguably, I've actually been in one many times for many years, but then eventually my dad had to get rid of it. But then, yeah, that's just a little story time right there. But even besides that point, when I take a look at something like Zebec as well, I feel like there's not that many reputable competitors. Like, for instance, of course, we know Ripple, we know Stellar. But if we take a look at the other competitors, like, for instance, Swiftcoin, XPR, XEN, XDC, that's not that many in the grand scheme of things. So I like how Zebec is in this unique position where it has a good following, a good fan base. The fundamentals are there. It has the aspect of Solana. It's kind of similar to Ripple and Stellar, but then not that many competitors. I like what I'm seeing here. If we consider people who like to hype up, oh, take a look at this whale that's holding this project. Take a look at how much they're holding. All this type of stuff. But then in the grand scheme of things, when I take a look at ZBCN, arguably a very large holder of ZBCN is Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. And I think that's something that Circle actually, especially as of late, ever since it went public, it really had that attention. So it didn't really have the same impact that I think if, let's say, Circle started being one of the backers when it comes to Zebec after it went public. Circle was one of the early backers when it comes to Zebec, so it happened quite a while ago. So I think in terms of that, hype and attention, that news, it's not really talked about that much, but I find that very impressive. I mean, Circle, the creator of USDC, the stablecoin, allegedly holding a significant amount of ZBCN, that's very impressive, in my opinion. Not to mention as well, if we take a look at Solana Ventures, they are also one of the backers when it comes to Zebec. So overall, when it comes to me, I just take a look at Solana Ventures, I take a look at Circle, and I say, wow, they don't need this. I mean, seriously, right? Why would they need Zebec? They're already massive as it is. But then they still believed in it anyways. I just find that very impressive to me. And when I see something like Solana Ventures, when I see something like, for instance, Circle, it seems like when they believe in something, they believe in the long term. And more especially when it comes to something like Circle, I don't think they're just going to be in here for one cycle and just leaving. I think they're in here for the long haul. Again, they are literally the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. I'm pretty sure they're planning to be around for a very long time. So when it comes to what they're going to do with their ZBCN holdings, I have no idea. I'm not a part of Circle. I don't know what's going on when it comes to that. I'm also not a part of the Zebec team. I have no idea. However, at the same time, Circle just doesn't give me this vibe where, oh, they're going to be panic selling ZBCN. It just doesn't give me that vibe. This is arguably in my perspective. However, who knows? I don't know their internals. However, even besides that, around a $9 billion market cap, which ZBCN would have arguably at the price of 10 cents, around a 17x from here, doesn't seem that unrealistic. Dogecoin literally has a market cap in the tens of billions right now, and we're not even in a fully fledged type of altcoin season. This doesn't seem too outlandish to me. However, even besides all that, I'm just staying patient, just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. However, I'm never going to be exiting completely. I'm still just going to keep 10% even after this cycle. ZBCN just doesn't give me this vibe where, oh, it's going to disappear after this cycle. It doesn't give me that vibe. I don't know the future though, but this is just my game plan. But again, no one has to follow it, but I'm just saying, I just kind of want to do this when it comes to ZBCN. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.